Morning, Judge Chicchelly. Why don't you make yourself comfortable, and when you do, you can start your opening remarks, but take your time.
All right, good morning to all of you.
Morning.
And very nice to see you all again. Again, I want to start by thanking you all for your service on this commission. This has been a real pleasure for me to meet so many of you personally and visit with you on the phone. You've welcomed me into your businesses, into your communities, and even into your homes. And I really feel blessed to have had this opportunity to interview for this position and to meet such wonderful and dedicated and strong Iowans. Because I've met with so many of you over the course of the last several months, I do want to try to keep my opening remarks succinct, but I do at this point want to elucidate certain key points in support of my application for the Iowa Court of Appeals. To preface, as many of you already know, I was born and raised in Cedar Rapids, one of seven children, 4 who became lawyers. I attended parochial schools. I lettered in 2 sports, softball and volleyball. I went to All-State 3 times on the B-flat clarinet and was the valedictorian of my high school class. I attended the University of Iowa for undergrad on a full-ride presidential scholarship, and there I finished my 4-year degree in 3 years with a major in English and a minor in political science. Meanwhile, I rowed for the University of Iowa rowing crew. I really rowed for the crew. I also worked a part-time job at a pizza restaurant, and I did training with the ROTC, the Army ROTC, to prepare me for my time in the Marine Corps. In 1988, I joined the United States Marine Corps and went to Officer Candidate School at Quantico, Virginia. And as I explained in earlier interviews, I injured my legs there in training and returned to Iowa then to finish my schooling. In 1992, I obtained my law degree from the University of Iowa. My employment history as an attorney includes 1 year as a judicial law clerk in Iowa's District 2A up in Mason City, 20 years in the private practice of law in Fort Dodge, in Waterloo, and in Cedar Rapids and Marion. And finally, in the past 6 years, I've served as an Iowa District Court Judge in the 6th Judicial District, including Lynn, Johnson, Tama, Iowa, Benton, and Jones counties. Today, you seek to replace 2 Court of Appeals judges in the state of Iowa. This is a court of rotating panels of 3 and high-volume court, broad subject matter jurisdiction, and generally applying settled law. You have 30 excellent applicants, and therefore I want to stress the following particular qualifications for which I believe that my credentials stand out. Again, you're replacing 2 judges on the Iowa Court of Appeals. They've both served previously as district court judges. I do feel that having served as a district court judge for the past 6 years well qualifies me for the position on the Court of Appeals. My experience is broad and varied. I have robust experience in criminal law, both with felonies and misdemeanors, family law, probate, post-conviction relief, civil litigation, Chapter 229 habeas corpus actions, mental health committals, contract disputes, foreclosures, mechanics liens, medical malpractice, you name it. At our level, we pretty much do it all. I've had a very strong work ethic. I've been able to keep up with fast-paced workload and execute my decisions well and timely. I have not one time had a case on the 2210 list, not one time. Generally speaking, I try to get my decisions out in less than 30 days. Oftentimes, I have my decisions out in just over a week. Approximately 80% of the Court of Appeals docket is family law, juvenile court, criminal law, and post-conviction relief. I will note that my substantive focus of law during my 20 years of private practice was largely in these areas. Also, as a district court judge, my body of work has been public for the last 6 years. In 6 years of timely, solid decisions, literally thousands of dispositions with only one partial reversal, you can also see the work that I've done publicly. This is not something that I've practiced behind the scenes. This is something that every Iowan can look and see the kinds of decisions that I've rendered. I've also had on judicial plebiscites my work reviewed by members of the bar and have had high marks when standing for retention. My experience is also broad from the standpoint of handling matters in both urban and rural settings. I've been involved in probate litigation with regard to farming. I've been involved in criminal matters and presided over criminal matters, medical malpractice matters, small communities, as well as major metropolitan areas in our state. Secondly, I strive for personal excellence, and this is not just in what I do, but also in how I treat people. I've received many blessings: intellect, integrity, humor, health, parents who loved and nurtured me, a spouse who supports me, 2 absolutely brilliant daughters whom I cherish, many enduring lifelong friendships. My best friend has been my best friend since kindergarten. A job that I find challenging and deeply rewarding, and in return I demand a lot from myself. I'm efficient, organized, I'm a strong writer, a keen thinker, a leader, sometimes a cheerleader, sometimes a counselor, an unwavering friend, reliable teammate, and teacher. To me, this is my expression of personal excellence. It is a dedication to public service, service to the bench, and to education. And that education includes education of other judges, education of the public, education of lawyers, and even education of legislators in support of judicial branch goals. I never miss an opportunity to visit with school-age children when they come into the courthouse. I have assisted the University of Iowa College of Law when they've brought classes over to practice voir dire in the courtroom. I've been honored to present at judicial conferences on areas of substantive law, bar association conferences, and at public events. I've also been honored to be invited to facilitate the general jurisdiction course this coming 2 weeks at the National Judicial College at Reno, Nevada. And in doing so, in assisting in presenting general jurisdiction to some of the nation's newest judges. I'm also an active advocate for our judicial branch. My recent work as president of the Iowa Judges Association and in liaising for the Iowa Judges Association with our legislators to promote funding for the branch, salary increases for judges, and promoting issues of importance for judges to be able to conduct our work well and safely. I also want to stress, in support of my candidacy, geographic diversity. There is not one judge or justice on either of Iowa's appellate courts that resides in Cedar Rapids, Iowa's second most populated metropolitan area. And though the Court of Appeals isn't necessarily a representative body, the breadth and perspective that geographic diversity does bring would provide added richness and perspective to the court. Lastly, I'm also a team player. This is a critical skill on this particular court. With rotating panels of 3 judges, I do work well with others. This is instilled from my early experiences, including varsity sports as well as the military. I enjoy friendly debate. I'm also a consensus builder. In short, I do believe my strengths would serve the Court of Appeals well, and I am humbled, absolutely humbled, to be given this opportunity to interview with all of you today. So at this point in time, I would certainly entertain any questions that any of you may have.
Thank you very much, Judge. We'll start with Ms. Pearson this time.
Good morning. Thank you for
morning.
your application. I have to say, probably Christine and I are always pleased to see applicants from Cedar Rapids, so thank you so much for being here. During our conversation, we discussed obviously a lot of various topics, and particularly, opportunities that you've had to provide education in addition to your professional career as well. And what thoughts do you have in terms of how you might reach out and be involved with education about the Court of Appeals to the general public?
Sure. I think that public outreach is really critical for the judicial branch at this point in time. I think that building the public's confidence in our judicial system and building their awareness of our judicial system are really critical to the health of our judicial branch and really standing up as that third constitutionally mandated aspect of our government. And so every opportunity that I get as a district court judge, as I indicated, I do get out into the world and try to speak about the judicial branch, talk about how we get our jobs done, how justice works, invite children into the courtroom. I know that there are lawyers that actually seek me out specifically to try to work out times to bring kids in to see the courtroom and to sort of demystify judicial process and what judges do. As a Court of Appeals judge, I think that would not change. I think that we have an absolute requirement upon us to be leaders at that level and to be able to reach out to young people, to get them excited about justice and to get them to understand how our appellate courts work. And that would certainly be something that's one of my favorite parts of my job currently, and it would be something that I would absolutely relish taking into an appellate position.
Thank you.
Ms. Bowden.
Thank you, Judge. You have quite an extensive practice as a private attorney and now as a district court judge. Do you feel one or the other of those better qualifies you to be a Court of Appeals judge?
I don't want to diminish the years of practice that I had as an attorney. I think that every experience that I had as an attorney was really important and informed me as to how to be a good judge. Ability to have empathy, ability to advocate, ability to understand and think through legal issues. All of those things were really important parts of the private practice of law. And certainly I had the ability to develop a wide variety of practice areas as a lawyer. However, I really do think that my last 6 years on the bench have more informed me in terms of this being a natural progression into an appellate level position. And that's really because in these last 6 years, I haven't had to think about what I would do if I was a judge or how would I make changes to fit into that role. Basically, at this point in time, I'm already entering decisions. I'm already reviewing cases and thinking about and applying the law. I'm already experiencing a massive caseload and figuring out ways to deal with it and make sure that I'm doing my work well and thoroughly. So I think that really better qualifies me for the position of an appellate court judge. In addition, a district court judge, having had years of experience, is informed as to how we practically get the job done at that level. And so we have that ability to look at what we're reviewing as an appellate court and think about the practical ramifications of how it would change things at the district court level in terms of the decision-making that occurs there.
Thank you.
Mr. Berger? Mr. Diaz?
I have a comment and a question. So my comment is this. For me, it would be bittersweet for you to be on the Court of Appeals because I think it's difficult these days, given the lack of candidates that are applying at the district court level, for us to lose in our district, in the 6th district, somebody of your caliber. So that's my comment. My question to you is, you raise the issue of empathy or sympathy, I guess that's how I would put it, in your comments. Can you expound on how that works in the context of the work that you're doing right now?
Sure. So, the thing that I really like the least about being a judge is that we have to give bad news on an almost daily basis. What we do, and it's not a comfortable feeling to have to send someone to prison. It's not a comfortable feeling to tell someone that you gave custody of their children to someone else, to the other spouse. And so I think that I really dig deep in apply those skills of empathy that I learned as a lawyer, really, in order to enable me to give the folks process that are really not on the prevailing end of disputes. I think it's really important that judges do that, because if we don't do that, then we've let someone walk out of our courtroom with the notion that justice wasn't served. They don't understand how you got to the decision that you got to. They don't understand how you applied the law. If they don't understand the facts that you found credible, then they're not going to buy into your decision. And so I think that empathy is really, really important at the root of the decisions that are made at that level.
How do you translate that into appellate work?
So it's a little bit trickier at the appellate level. I mean, the fact of the matter is that at the appellate level, what you're doing more is you're reviewing cases, often de novo, but you're reviewing cases and you're determining whether or not a judge oftentimes has exceeded their discretion in certain circumstances. And that's the twist right there. I think that it's it translates less at the appellate level, but I think at the appellate level you always have to consistently remember that at the heart of any dispute that you're reviewing are real, living, breathing people.
Thank you.
Ms. Law?
No questions.
Mr. Bevel?
No questions.
Mr. Sukup?
No questions.
Ms. Sinclair?
No questions.
Ms. Diekma?
I know it would make a difference on the type of case, but if you could just expand a little bit on talking about how you as a judge want to get involved in asking questions of litigants, oral arguments. What's kind of your general philosophy in that regard?
So the way that I approach most any case, and especially complex cases, is the first thing that I do is I review the file. And once I review the file, if it's really complex, sometimes there's some diagramming that goes on. I'm a kind of a list and diagram person that puts together, okay, these are the parties, these are how things fit together, these are the issues that I have, and there may be multiple issues that are being reviewed in a given case. I think that once you have all of that and then you've reviewed the legal arguments of both sides, then it's really important to have, to come up with, from what you've reviewed solidly, a list of questions that make sense. Then if there's, in a panel situation, I think the next step would be to discuss with others in your panel some of the questions that they may have. That may reduce or increase the questions that you do have. But I think you start with the substance, you start with sort of diagramming the case and laying it out, understanding what the issues are before you, and then you can really formulate that informs your questions that you can ask.
Thank you.
Mr. Goodman?
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Chicchelly, thank you for your application. We had a couple of very good interviews and appreciate the time you took for that. I've asked many candidates this question, and in your role as a district court judge, I'd like to get your impressions about this because I think it will help inform the commission in their selection. We have 12 judges, 18 lawyers, and I'd like to know from your perspective as a district court judge, how important is it that the judges that review the work of the district court be Court of Appeals judges that have served on the district court? In other words, how does that aid or assist a judge on the Court of Appeals in reviewing or second guessing or whatever term you'd like to apply to what the district court judge did in a particular case?
I think largely the position of a district court judge utilized at the level of the Court of Appeals would be to add that perspective of how do you get the work done as a district court judge? Realistically, what is the process? How you're getting the information? How a decision that you issue at the Court of Appeals level is really going to have a practical manifestation in the district courtroom. And I think that's really where the value comes from having district court judges on the appellate bench. I think also, too, just the ability to administer a very massive workload, the demonstrated ability to write and get written rulings out expeditiously. District court judges have demonstrated that. And then lastly, with regard to the breadth of subject matter, I think that's really key. The district court, as general jurisdiction court, has most likely any district court judge that's had a lengthy tenure has touched on almost every substantive area of law that the Court of Appeals would review. That cannot be said necessarily for any general practice attorney necessarily, or even a district associate court judge.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Bloom, we're out of time. And I really appreciate you coming today, and I wish you the best of luck, Judge.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.